Hey, this is Marilyn Gigliotti.
Hey, this is Brian O'Halloran.
Hey, everybody. My name is Scott Schiaffo, actor best known as the Chulies Gum Guy from the film Clerks.
And welcome to Clerks Minute.
You're listening to Clerks Minute.
And I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Clerks Minute, the show where we break down the 1994 Kevin Smith classic, one Return of the Jedi minute at a time. I'm Blake.
I'm Kyle.
And let me bring on our special guest, one of the patriarchs of the movie by minute format from Star Wars Minute, Pete the Retailer. Pete, how you doing?
Hi, how you doing? I'm doing all right.
Yeah, welcome.
I feel like I just answered my own question.
Qui-Gon.
How are you guys?
We're doing good. Are you doing good?
I hope so.
Actually, first of all, it's an honor to have you on the show, Pete. You and Alex are kind of obviously one of the reasons we're here. So, if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be here doing this. So
I don't know whether to refer to you as Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan.
I prefer Obi-Wan, so okay. Since Alex isn't here, I'll say I'm Obi-Wan.
That works for me. That works for me. We'll check with Alex when we talk to him on the next show. Well, Obi-Wan, remember, Obi-Wan does live until the end, lives through everything. He actually does through everything. So
we're also not going to tell Alex that part. So.
Yes, of course not. Of course not. Yeah. So we are in the middle of Star Wars week here on this show, day 2 of Star Wars week, and we're in the middle of the very famous Return of the Jedi argument about independent contractors, whether or not you should feel bad for them being on the Death Star when it blows up at the end of the movie. Before we get into this, Kyle, what's better, Empire or Jedi?
I'm going to be a blasphemer and say Jedi.
Okay, I always say Empire, but I can understand. Pete, dare I ask you, the person who does these movies, which one's better, Empire or Jedi?
As far as the original trilogy goes, I tend to like them in release order. I like Star Wars and then Empire and then Jedi. Is I still love it, but it's my least favorite of the three.
Okay, fair enough. So, I was laughing about going into this minute, hearing this conversation about the independent contractors. I'm not sure who's actually seen what I'm about to reference, but there was a Phineas and Ferb Star Wars special a couple of years ago. My son loved Phineas and Ferb, so obviously I watched this special. And they actually made a joke of this at the end of that special when they blew up the original Death Star. And I think it was Baljeet goes and says, "What about all the independent contractors?" And and they show another bus fly by of all the independent contractors that were on the ship. It cracks me up, and it made me think of this when we're having this conversation.
And ironically,
here.
They also had Kevin Smith on as a guest star.
Yeah, he was on that episode. Actually, that's pretty funny.
Well, actually, no, I don't think he was on that one, but I know he was on one.
That show eventually.
He was on he was a special effects wizard.
Yeah, but that was pretty funny when I thought about this. When they brought it up in here, I'm like, oh yeah, that was referencing Phineas and Ferb. So, all places to get a reference from. So, I guess we go right into things, and we're talking about in Return of the Jedi when the Death Star gets blown up. Well, how do you feel on this conversation with the independent contractors, Pete?
In a way, well, first of all, this is kind of right in the kind of peak of what Alex and I usually refer to as the Dark Ages. That it's there was no Star Wars for a long time, so this totally hit. Like the fact that they were talking about Star Wars in a wasn't quite a major motion picture. It's still an indie motion picture, but still, it had cultural buzz.
Yeah,
and the fact that it was like, wait, they're talking about Star Wars, and plus then they're talking about it in a, it seemed like the way that you would talk about it with your friends. So it was this amazing thing. I don't think I had thought of that aspect at the time. Now I feel like I've had to think of every aspect of Star Wars. But at the time, I think the idea of being like, oh yeah, wait, what about those other people was definitely fresh and new to me.
Yeah, this is 1994. You're right. This is the Dark Ages of the Star Wars world, pre-prequels and all the other stuff that happened. And obviously now, I know Kyle was bringing up the Force Awakens tie-in of things. They actually got brought up on Babylon when Force Awakens came out. It's good.
Yeah, they basically go. just a minute, I got to bring up the actual quote here. So say, do you think the average stormtrooper knows how to install a toilet main? And then we find out that Finn works in sanitation.
Right.
Yeah.
Then
Then again, in their defense, he's not an average stormtrooper.
No, he's definitely not. But that was actually brought up on Hollywood Babylon. They actually brought that up. It's like, hey, look, they wrote that in. They wrote that in for you, Kevin.
I now have this. I now have this mental image of stormtroopers with plungers trying to unclog a toilet.
There's a visual I didn't expect to have tonight. There's a visual I did not expect.
Oh dear God, Lord Vader, what did you eat? We gotta get the drain snake in here.
Jeez.
I'm sure there's a droid for that.
Oh yeah, exactly. When it comes to major clogs, they do have a droid for that. You're absolutely right.
And if that doesn't work, about 6 pounds of C4 is clearly indicated.
Well, we're in midair. I don't think that's possible. When it comes to that. Oh my God, that is pretty funny. No, you're absolutely right. Actually, I remember Kevin brought up in an interview. I'm like, well, I think every single thing he ever talks about, Kevin, when he brings up Clerks, but everything he ever does. Love the guy, but he definitely talks about this movie a lot. He did bring up that when he wrote the script, he was saying, these are the conversations I'm actually having with my friends, so let's make it public knowledge to everybody else.
Yeah,
that explains it.
We get that nerdy about the Back to the Future trilogy.
And yes, and we'll have Scott Corelli on later on in the run to talk about that kind of stuff with him. But no, seriously, I love the Star Wars movies, so when I actually watched this for the first time, I actually had the same reaction, like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I never thought of the concept of that. Pete, when was the first time you saw the movie? Like, how did the first time you saw this movie?
I saw it in theaters. I saw it... I was a sophomore in film school, so it was perfectly in New York City. We had, a couple of good independent theaters around, and it was like, hey, have you seen this movie? There's, and it was a kind of a buzz movie. So we all went down. I think we saw it at the Angelica, and
that sounds right.
It was totally, up our alley. Not only was I, in film school, but then I think maybe like a month or two later, got my first real retail job. So then I became a clerk.
That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'm actually from Jersey, so you want to throw that out there.
Nice. Yeah.
I kind of grew up in a good period of filmmaking. I that's one of those things I wish they invented time travel for, so I could go back there and experience the brief 3D revival.
Right.
Yeah, because one of the things I always wanted to do is see Friday the 13th Part 3 in the original 3D.
Oh, it's playing next month, I think. At the they're doing a little 3D kind of program at where was that? Film Forum maybe, or the Quad or something.
Oh man,
that's pretty cool. Actually, I didn't know that.
They're playing a bunch of those, like Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin, and Friday the 13th, and a couple of other kind of like that 80s 3D wave.
Yeah, I mean they're
doing a retrospective.
And even better, the best thing about Blu-ray 3D is that they actually brought out a lot of the 80s stuff. I mean, they have 3D versions of Metal Storm, Jaws 3D, Coming At Ya. That's a 3D Western, believe it or not.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. People abhor gimmicks. I love them. Love them.
I'm on board. I like 3D when it's done. If it's as long as it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, my prized possession in my DVD collection is the copy of 13 Ghosts that actually not only has the illusional gimmick, but actually has one of the viewers.
Yeah.
That's I'm just letting two movie geeks have fun talking. Yeah. I'm letting them sit back and let two movie geeks talk.
The first time my best friend and I watched that, we wound up passing the viewer back and forth between scenes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah. That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I think I brought this up on the pilot with this movie.
Yeah.
Where when I first saw the movie, it was on VHS. And it was one of those, dude, you got to watch this movie. Okay, pop it in. I guess let's watch it. I don't know. It's late at night. If you're spending the night at the house, pop it in. I don't care. Let's watch this movie. And I'm like, oh, no, I get it. Okay, I got it. I'm on board. I'm on board. So that's actually pretty... Okay, I have to ask, and where I was at, and people actually... We've had people on this show that never heard of this format. Have never heard of this. And I think the last person we talked to was Scott... who was it, Scott?
Yeah, Scott Schiaffo.
Scott Schiaffo, who was on the show for about a week ago when this is airing, and he's like, "What is this format?" I have to ask you, Pete. You and Alex are the innovators. Why? Why is this a format? Why did you guys come up with this?
Well, we were looking for, every time I talk to Alex, kind of like in this scene, like every time I talk to Alex at a party or something, we would end up, off in the corner just talking about Star Wars. And he was doing another podcast called The Ink Panther Show with his friend, and that was becoming less and less tenable. So we were talking about doing something together, and then I was like, well, it'd be nice to do a thing about Star Wars, but we need something to sustain it. I don't want it to just be like random us chatting about Star Wars for a while. It needs and then the kind of shows that do episode by episode of TV shows started to pop up, and I was like, yeah, we need that, but for Star Wars. But if we just did each movie, we'd be done in 3 or 6, episodes. And somehow it morphed into, let's do all the minutes. That's a good 120 episodes.
And now here we are all these years later.
And now, yeah, if we can add up the number of minutes that everybody who does a movies by minutes podcast show has done, it's a colossal waste of time. It's awesome.
Would you say they add up to 925,600 minutes?
Okay. This funny part is I'm a huge redhead, and there's 2 posters up in here. I did not see that one coming. I should have, but I didn't. It's funny because my best friend who does the Blake and Sal show, Sal, for the Blake and Sal show, I told him, because I went to plug the convention the week before we went, because it was actually our SummerSlam special, and I go and say, I gotta plug this convention we're going to just so people know we're going. So I go and plug the convention, and he literally stopped short for a second, like, wait, there's a convention for this? Yes, there is. And it turned out to be a lot of fun. It really was a whole lot of fun to be there.
They apparently have a convention for everything now.
Yeah. So I talked to Crystal about this once. Pete, I know Crystal said it was really up to you guys. How did this whole convention come up?
It started as on the Facebook group for movies by minutes makers. I never get the name right, but we just started like, it'd be fun if we all could get together somewhere. And then it was like, well, where, it was all theoretical. It was like, well, where would be a good place? Oh, Chicago. Okay. Well, when would be a good time? Oh, August. And I feel like Jim O'Kane from Airport Minute was like, all right, I bought my ticket. I was like, wait, well, what?
Of course Jim said that. Of course he did.
And of course the guy who does Airport Minute would be the
He was totally on board.
Ticket.
Yeah. What?
So, then we scrambled to kind of make it work. And Crystal did most of the legwork with that. I was just like, all right, well, here's the date that we're going to do it in the city, and we need to find a place. And Crystal went and locked down the location and talked to everybody, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it turned out to be a lot of fun. I think it got brought up on Back to the Future Minute, which is how I heard about it. So I'm like, hey, it's in Chicago. We're off that weekend. We're both off work. Let's go.
And we're in driving distance.
It was literally an 1.5-hour drive for us. So, like, let's go. Why not?
A bit less so because of the lack of traffic.
Yeah, it was like an 1.5 hours without traffic with 2 tolls to get there. So it was so easy for us. So I'm like, well, why not? Let's go. And that was even before we decided to do this show. And we were just going to go and have some fun. And then we decided to do this. Yeah. And I'm glad we went. It turned out to be a lot of fun. And it was nice to see you guys. And to probably put faces to the actual voices. It was actually really nice.
I found somewhere where I belong.
Yeah, it was exactly. My feelings were the same. I had a lot of kind of, I don't know. It was nice to see people who I had talked to a lot, in different capacity, people whose show I'd guested on, or even people I had communicated with on Facebook or whatever, and then I'd be like, "Oh, you're a real person," and just to kind of have everybody. I sometimes get tired of as much as I love doing what we all do, like I sometimes get tired of just being, again, out in the real world, in public or something, and trying to explain what exactly our show is to somebody, at a party or something. And meanwhile, here's a whole room full of people like, you all know exactly what this is. I don't even have to start there. We can just talk about how, the details of it.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been doing podcasting now going on 5 years. And it's really hard. It's really a lot of work. And it was nice to be in a room with people that understand. because I'm not around people that way, and it's really nice because I'm really the producer of the show.